The current South African economic system is a neo-colonial system that was designed by the British colonial powers. Even after 1994, the core design of that system remained the same. Going to be a bit controversial here, but the reason why freedom fighters like Steve Biko and Chris Hani were killed and people like Mandela were spared is because what we got in 1994 was a false liberation. Unless you are economically free, you are not really free. Post 1994, there is still major discrimination in this country. I am talking about economical exclusion. Post 1994, almost 30 years later, South Africa is said to be one of the most unequal nations on earth. Why? Because an economic system that even predates apartheid is still very much in place. This economic system from the onset was designed to make one group extremely rich at the expense of another. The same way that our grandfathers slaved away in mines and factories for peanuts is the same way that we are slaving away today for next to nothing. And because the system was designed to keep us desperate and dependent, the economic climate says, just be glad you have a job. So in other words, be content with your peanuts because you are privileged to even have a job. The apartheid regime was basically put in place to make sure that the economic interests of the colonial British are realized. When the Boers couldn't maintain the control anymore based on the pre-94 revolts by the marginalized and exploited blacks, the control was then given to the ANC. That is why the West still owns our mines, our banks, our land, and many other resources. The colonial powers merely appointed new puppets in 94. I know you respect and love him, but your beloved Mandela was a puppet of colonial power. So was Thabo Mbeki, so was Jacob Zuma, and so is Cyril. This is why post-94, the ANC has done very little to transform the economical position of ordinary South Africans. Why is financial literacy not taught in public schools? It's because the system wants us to remain indebted so that we can remain dependent on it for crumbs. During the apartheid era, the Afrikaners, which constituted about 4% of the SA population at the time, were running the country on behalf of the British. That setup made sure that equality, especially in the economic sense, does not take place. The ANC took the baton from the Afrikaners to further advance the interests of the colonizers at the expense of the majority. The fact that the larger part of our economy is owned by minority groups is not coincidental. It's all by design. A country blessed with so many natural resources has one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. Our poverty rates are also amongst the highest in the world, while some members of the minority groups bank millions of rands every single month. Only a few are benefiting from this economy, and this situation has been a ticking time bomb for years. The 2021 July unrest was a big symptom of the level of dissatisfaction and frustration that ordinary South Africans have been feeling for years. It's going to get worse because the scales of economical equality are way off balance. The anger of ordinary South Africans will continue to escalate until something radical changes. It's going to get bloody and messy in this country until change takes place. As this cancer manifests, each episode will get worse and worse.
This government, our government, is worse than the apartheid government, because at least you were expecting it with the apartheid government. Our government, we were expecting that now we would have a government that was sensitive to the sentiments of our constitution. Our government, representing me, representing me, says it will not support Tibetans who are being oppressed viciously by the Chinese. Hey, Mr. Zuma, you and your government don't represent me. You represent your own interests. And I'm warning you, I really am warning you, out of love. I am warning you like I warned the nationalists. I am warning you. One day, we will start praying for the defeat of the ANC government.
The ANC government is not heeding these warnings. They are refusing to change. The status quo serves them so much that they see any call for change as a threat to their life of comfort and luxury. One thing about greed is that you never know when you have enough. Everyone wants to retain power for as long as possible and to eat for as long as possible, while ordinary South Africans struggle to put food on the table every day. Will is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and without it, not much change can take place. Our current government lacks the political will to transform the economy of this country in a way that would benefit ordinary South Africans. They don't care about the future of this country because most of them will not be around to see it. Robert Mugabe did not care about the future well-being of the Zimbabwean economy. He was only interested in living in great comfort for as long as possible. Almost 14% of South Africa's GDP goes into paying salaries of the ruling elite. Countries of a similar scale as us only use about 7% of their GDP to pay their governors. So not only is this government incompetent and self-serving, but it is very wasteful as well. Our politicians are basically overpaid to do nothing. South Africa's income tax rates are amongst the highest in the world. Approximately 45% tax for certain income brackets is insane. And where does the money go? It goes into the pockets of these greedy politicians. They use some of it to cover their incompetencies by giving people lousy social grants. They use some of it to bail out mismanaged and useless SOEs like Eskom. The privileged elite of South Africa are not prepared to give up their lavish lifestyles to build this country. That is why people on the ground are taking matters into their own hands by revolting. But is that enough? Are the people of South Africa angry enough to take some tangible action? That's why the ruling elite criminalizes ground activists like Nhlanhla Lux. Steve Biko was criminalized by the apartheid government for fighting for equality. So the modus operandi hasn't changed. Same system, different master. The same way that certain jobs were reserved for whites in the so-called Calabar job grading system, blacks were deprived the opportunity to occupy certain positions regardless of their qualifications. Even today, we have a lot of great young thinkers who are deprived positions in national government because they are not related or affiliated with any comrade. Yet, South Africa is in serious need of young and innovative thinkers to tackle some of the issues we are grappling with as a nation.